According to Greek mythology, Sisyphus, the king of Ephyra, was a clever yet cunning ruler. While he often angered the gods with his callous behavior towards visitors, an abominable breach of Greek hospitality laws, it was his ability to cheat death, not once but twice, that truly brought on the wrath of the gods. As punishment, Sisyphus was condemned to roll a rather massive boulder up a steep hill. To ensure that his hubris in believing that he could outsmart the gods would be atoned for, his task was not all that straightforward. As Sisyphus would near the top of the hill, the boulder would slip from his grasp and roll back down to the bottom. This would happen each time he would be close to the top of the hill, forcing Sisyphus to start all over again and again for all of eternity. In Albert Camus' 1942 philosophical essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus uses the punishment inflicted onto Sisyphus as a metaphor for the human condition. He does this by first introducing us to the notion of the absurd, which is central to Camus' philosophy. According to Camus, the absurd lies in humanity's search for meaning and the apparent meaninglessness of the universe. As Camus states in his own words, man stands face to face with the irrational. He feels within him his longing for happiness and for reason. The absurd is born of this confrontation between the human need and the unreasonable silence of the world. By continuously rolling the boulder up the hill, only to watch it fall back down, Camus draws a stark link between Sisyphus's repetitive task and the futile nature of human existence in our quest for meaning. In the face of the realization of this absurdity, Camus presents us with three choices. In the first choice, we have the option to rid ourselves of the suffering and disillusionment brought upon by this absurdity by taking our own life or committing physical suicide. According to Camus, there is one but truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide. Judging whether life is or is not worth living amounts to answering the fundamental question of philosophy. All the rest, whether or not the world has 3 dimensions, whether the mind has 9 or 12 categories, comes afterwards. However, Camus strongly rejects suicide as a viable answer to the absurd. By committing physical suicide, we can only negate the idea of the absurd. We do not solve it. Therefore, the contradiction can only be lived. The second choice we have when faced with the absurd is to turn to religion or other belief systems that offer us a higher meaning or grander purpose for our existence. For those who choose this path, the belief in a transcendent meaning or God may provide a framework that could quell the conflict between the human need for meaning and the seemingly indifferent universe. Yet, for Camus, doing so amounted to committing philosophical suicide. It implied surrendering one's critical thinking for a false sense of comfort and security, which he believed to be in direct opposition to rational thought. This act amounted to a form of intellectual evasion that not only denied the individual's autonomy, but also negated the necessity to confront the inherent absurdity of existence. The third option, which is undoubtedly central to the myth of Sisyphus, we have the choice to embrace the absurd. Rather than seeking external sources of meaning or resorting to philosophical or religious escapism, Camus calls on us to embrace the absurd and accept the fundamental idea that life lacks an inherent meaning or purpose. In other words, Camus encourages us to confront the absurd head-on. We can do this by not only recognizing the absurdity of our existence and the inherent lack of meaning in the universe, but also by viewing the absurd as an essential aspect of the human condition that needs to be lived, and most importantly, by rebelling and choosing to live life with passion and authenticity despite the lack of inherent meaning. This rebellion against the absurd is a rejection of resignation and nihilism. As we get back to Sisyphus, doomed to his absurd existence with no true purpose or meaning, trudging his way back up and down the hill, Camus invites us to imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because to do so means to envision him finding contentment and meaning within the act of pushing the boulder, despite its apparent meaninglessness. It encompasses the idea of embracing the absurd, that even in a world that lacks inherent meaning, individuals have the capacity to rebel against the absurd and create their own sense of purpose and fulfillment. So as we push our own metaphorical boulders in our own lives, be that confronting the burden of human existence or other futile challenges we face in our relatively short lives, we too can be happy.